All right, I'm August, and I'm going to tell you what helped me cope even more than therapy. And of course, I'm not in any way giving you advice about what should be right for you, because I don't know. I barely figured it out for myself. It's been really hard because when I was figuring out that I went through incest and then sexual abuse, there was a big movement. This was the 80s. There was a big movement, false memory syndrome. And there were actually hundreds of people that claimed that it didn't exist, like incest didn't exist. Now, there's a history of this in psychology, and I think this is why psychotherapy didn't help me so much. And again, I'm not saying it won't help you, I'm saying it didn't help me. But Freud, the man who invented psychoanalysis, had patients who would come and tell him they'd gone through all these things with their dads when they were little kids, incest. And Freud came up with this theory, and he was really, passionate about it, and he really wanted to help these women. And then everybody around him just said, that cannot be true. And so eventually he stopped believing his patients. And he came up with a different theory that said it was the kid. It was the child. The child fantasized about the adult, of being with the adult, and they made it all up. Okay. All right, so that's Freud. Probably everything is not bad about Freud. Psychoanalysis is good on some levels. It really did help me early on just to cope with life. It was good. But then I needed something else. So the next thing that I did, I made a deal. Remember when I was talking about that little way that my spirit and my body would work together to get me up early in the morning, like before the alarm went off? And a lot of people can relate to that. There are a lot of other examples of the way this happens that are more intricate and developed. But this is the basic one that I can think of. And I've heard an alchemy teacher talk about the fact that he went through this too. And that's how he started seeing that, hey, wait, I can talk to myself to do this thing with my alarm. And the way he explained it was that what you start learning to do is stretch the moment. So this is the alchemy part of sexual healing. While all of this is really awful, horrible, nightmarish to deal with, it is also an opportunity. It sounds so cliche, but it really has been an opportunity for me to learn about my spirit and about the big spirit, if you want to call it universal love, or you want to call it intelligence, or God, or Allah, whatever you want to call it, whatever this thing is that animates us, that, when we die, this thing is no longer here. That part of me knows how to survive here on this planet, along with, Mother Earth, giving me flesh and bones and fruit and vegetables. It's the combination of the spirit and the body together. And this is what shamanism is about, which I also started practicing. But the first thing I did before I ever thought of calling it alchemy or shamanism was I just went inside and said, look, I'm giving you 1 year, and I want to know if this happened to me, if it didn't, why do I keep thinking it did? And if it did, I want to know what happened to me. And if you don't tell me in a year, I'm going to make a different decision about being here. And I was at the end of the line for me. And of course, I am not advocating that is a solution. And there are way more, I didn't even have internet then. This was, no, there was internet, but it wasn't like now. It was 90, this would have been maybe almost 2000. And there weren't like all these videos with people talking about everything you can think of. You couldn't just get online and Google something, and it wasn't like that yet. So now we all have more options. But at that time, the problem was for me, I just felt incredibly alone and crazy. But I knew I wasn't crazy. Why would I make this up? Why would I? I wouldn't. So ultimately, that was the downfall of my mother's reasoning, that she believed I believed it. Well, I didn't believe anything. I felt it and knew it. It's different than believing something. Believing something's where you've got to hop onto an idea, a linear idea. It wasn't believing. It was something in my heart and soul that was going, "Ooh, you need to deal with the fact that you were in a very sticky dynamic as a kid, and your brain doesn't work in the way it would have if you hadn't been through that, and that's why you're wanting to leave the planet." And it was. It was just that part of me didn't feel heard. That was all that feeling of I can't do this anymore. You know, I can't live like this anymore. That was a good sign, because it was that part of me saying, look, you've got to address what's going on with me. And I did. I finally started addressing it. And once I addressed it, what I did was, I gave myself that year and I went on the road. I sublet my apartment and I got in my old SUV and I just lived in it for 11 months, riding every day, 6 to 8 hours a day. I would just go into a cafe, keep buying teas all day and ride, and then I would go for walks, and I rode up and down the West Coast, and it was really beautiful in a way, but harrowing. It was very harrowing too, but it was worth it, because month 11, end of month 11, around November, I knew. All of a sudden it was like, wow, it was like my alarm clock. It was way early though. It was like a month early. I still had another month, and I knew. I was aware, and I wasn't feeling like I was insane anymore. It was like I was congruent with my inner self, my truth. And that is worth everything. And I wouldn't have had to have learned that process if this hadn't been an aspect of my life. So whatever it is you're going through, there is a place inside you that is also waiting for you to meet with it, love it, hug it, encourage it, listen to it, let it write through you, let it sing through you, go out in the woods and walk with it. Walk with that part of yourself and ask whatever it is you believe in. For me, it's my higher self and the powers that be, and you will be helped and you will get through it. I got through it. If I can get through it, anyone can get through it. And it took a long time, but it was worth it. I'm worth it. There's no way I was going to give up on myself after that. I figured out, this is what's going on with you. This is real. No wonder you feel like that. No wonder you're acting out those ways. And believe me, it didn't just stop then and I became like, wow, I'm always congruent. I've had to really work at it. And perhaps we'll talk more about that later.